Hey everyone, Bill McRae here. Welcome to AI Weekly Live. I hope you're having a fabulous day. I'm a whole minute early. Yay! It's that time of the year here in South Texas where all the trees are in bloom. There's a quarter-inch thick coat of pollen on my car. Um, I run the car through the car wash at least once a week, but it impacts my voice more than anything else. Always had kind of a rough voice. It gets a little bit more rougher when I have to do these types of things during the spring months in Texas. Um, I was at a restaurant yesterday. I was sitting down. I was eating a pulled pork sandwich. I just hadn't done anything. Suddenly, blood rolling down my nose, and I had to clean up. It was embarrassing only because I am in public. Uh, all caused by these stinking allergies. Nothing else. I do have a itinerary laid out for us today, but I want to warn you in advance. We're going to be talking about some pretty high-end AI stuff. You don't have to understand it to appreciate the knowledge. I'm just trying to bring everyone up to speed with what's going on in AI right now. I'll start by doing a little review of the current economic turmoil caused by President Trump. Uh, It's got a lot of people uncertain. I understand what he's trying to achieve, and I hope he's successful, but I'm scared. And honestly, a lot of people are scared for good reasons. Change is scary. It absolutely is. My um, uh, ability to adapt to change is pretty good because I'm used to seeing it a lot. I just realized there's not enough light in this room. I'm going to go turn the light on. Well, it's a little bit better. But light is one of those things that uh, you just kind of brings out the photo a little bit better, creates more contrast. So it's a good thing, right? So want to make sure that we get the best possible picture we can here, uh, and make sure we're on X and all that great stuff. Uh, First of all, if you have questions, there's a chat box there. Feel free to ask questions. Sometimes I don't get to them because I forget about it. But I have the chat box popped up right now. So hopefully I don't miss something if you have a question. I may turn off some of these banners, but I want to talk to you about where we're going with AI and talk about the uncertainty created by Mr. Trump or President Trump. It's either going to be the greatest thing that ever happened in the universe for the United States where I live, or it's going to be just terrible. Everyone has their opinion. I think he has a very good plan. I never doubt his direction. It's just the execution that creates problems for you. So I have a house in California that I want to sell, and I cut off a 2-hour conference call with my realtor there, and there's so much uncertainty in the market. The prices are coming down. Um, it's harder to find buyers. Interest rates are still high. Uh, and in general, what Trump is trying to do, there's a couple of big things he's trying to do. Uh, the process of eliminating waste in the government, which is uh, something that everyone acknowledges, whether it goes back to Bill Clinton, who was the last one that did a really good job of cleaning up waste in the government. Uh, Even Obama talked about, but nobody would actually do it, uh, other than Clinton with Gore. And got to give him credit for that. Those are good economic times back then. In the '90s, that's where we accumulated most of our wealth in our family. So thank you, Bill. But what Trump is trying to do is to we've been borrowing like drunken soldiers for the last, really 50 years. And we're up to 36 trillion or something like that in debt. But a huge bunch of that, like $25 trillion of that has to be refinanced this year. And if interest rates are up, it's going to cost us trillions of dollars more money in interest over the next 25 years while we're repaying this debt. So his whole goal, I believe, is to drive interest rates down, which is a strange goal. But the goal is, then we refinance all the country's long-term debt. And I'm one way to get people to lower interest rates is to kind of force everything into a downward spiral and recession, if you will, which is terrible. But he's also going to give all these tax cuts, which he says is going to finance with tariffs and increase business. And then he talks about, I believe it's like $3 trillion of foreign investment flooding into this country because we're the least risky. And his tariffs are designed to motivate companies to locate in the States to manufacture products. Well, then everyone goes, well, labor here is too expensive and everything is going to get more expensive, which is a good point. If you got one of these things, there's some little person in China screwing the drill down by hand. And that's the past. Trump is really deeply synced into the AI industry, world market, and robotics because of Elon Musk. And say what you want about either one of those two, they know a lot more about where we're headed than you or I do. But that's just a fact. And Elon, he is advising the president on where we stand with robotics and AI and quantum computing. So the ability to manufacture in the States depends on investment. Huge investments in order to build factories like Elon Musk's Tesla. There's like 5 people in a 100-mile square long building making his cars. The amount of labor per vehicle on a Tesla is like 10% of what it costs for someone in Detroit to make that same car, or to make a car of similar features, styles, that sort of thing. I'm not necessarily a big fan of electric cars, but I love his technology as far as what he's doing with building his cars and factory, and look at his rockets. And he's got the boring thing, which is he thinks is going to revolutionize traffic in cities. I don't know about any of these things. I do know that the guy's got it right here between his ears, much more so than we do. And he knows and has advised the president that in order to leverage and get manufacturing in the States as opposed to China or India or Vietnam, where they have low cost of labor, is to make it so that we can use AI and robotics to manufacture things like they do in the Tesla factory for so much lower cost than it would cost to build it elsewhere. And if you look at the way things are going, it seems pretty obviously that the president and his advisors are creating a lot of distractions and a lot of fear in the marketplace. And it's understandably, if you got money in the stock market, stuff like that, you're going to be afraid. Well, I have money in real estate, and I'm afraid too, because as I found out when I just listed my home in California, prices are seeing a nosedive, and it's harder and harder for people to get loans to buy, $1 million homes and plus. So there's a lot to take in and to be concerned about with all these changes. But I think his main goal is that they want to be able to capture and stimulate investment in AI technology in the United States to kind of keep it away from uh, the Chinese. Because as bad as the United States government is, China's a whole lot worse in terms of freedoms. And in the long run, Trump's goal is to stimulate the middle class, where the Democrats' goal is to stimulate the wealthy. So, I mean, stock market's taking a dive now. A lot of wealthy people are losing money. They know it will come back, and probably better than ever, because there are huge investments going on in the AI sector. Let me go through a couple of them. Uh, the European Union, that's not us, but they're investing $20 billion, 20 with a B billion, in building what they're called AI gigafactories and supercomputers in order to be in the AI game. That's just a ton of money. Uh, OpenAI just secured an extra $40 billion, and the valuation of their company went up to $260 billion. The company didn't even exist 5 years ago. Okay. Even startups like Databricks, they out of nowhere got $10 billion in capital that they raised, and their business valued at $62 billion. Huge return on investment on that venture capital. And XAI, which is X's AI program, Grok, raised $6 billion, but XAI is now valued at over $50 billion, and Musk sold X to XAI, so the whole thing is worth $80 billion. This is big money, and you could see a lot of companies investing billions, in some cases up to $500 billion, into building infrastructure here in the States for the AI space to create data centers to store data and computing power to actually be able to do everything that AI needs to do. Because it's going to drive your car, it's going to run the hospital, it's going to run your business, it's going to take all this over. Okay. And it's also going to leave a lot of people in Asia unemployed because we won't need cheap Chinese labor anymore. This is going to get pretty dicey in the next 20 years. I don't know what countries that have always built their esteem based on cheap labor. I don't know what their future is. Okay. Trump is smart enough to actually be saying our future is in this AI and quantum computing in robotics. So when you combine quantum and AI and robotics together, I've been telling you about that. You've got something that can uh, be in your house, clean your house, uh, change the kids' diapers. I'm a little too old for that, but absolutely, help maintain your yard, keep the house clean. Would I spend $20,000 on a AI butler in my house? Yeah, I probably would, um, because it would make life easier for my wife and my. I'm getting kind of old. It's hard for me to mow the lawn, so we are looking at a situation where uh, it's probably best to invest into this area, and I would probably bring something in too. I would like to live in the house we have now. My wife and I have I think it's 2,000 square foot home in a middle class neighborhood in San Antonio. It's how I like to live. I don't feel comfortable in anything big and ostentatious. I really am not. Uh, I don't want to flaunt. We've accomplished because it means nothing. We all died broke, right? Our kids fight for the scraps. Anyway, getting back to what I was talking about, um, there's going to be a huge market for those AI robots, and with quantum computing now at a chip, it's I think the investment into these giga factories is short-term profits, believe it or not. Of course, China comes out with their own AI, which is cheaper than OpenAI or any of the other AI programs out there. Facebook just announced Lambda and uh, XAI and OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. There's Google has their version. I don't even remember what it's called. Um, quite frankly, I like using Grok a lot because it's got a desktop app or it's on my iPad. And right here, I pull it up and I can talk to it. What's the next big AI investment? So I asked it that question, and I don't know if you can see it, it gave me an answer. And it said basically, there's billions of dollars going into building the infrastructure to do all this computing and to train these AI models so that you can, go to ChatGPT and say, write me an article about making money online. And we'll write an article that's, it's readable, reasonable, or write me a book. You can write a book easy enough. Or you can go to Aurora and say, I need a video showing this guy falling on my house. And you can come up with all these different things using AI, and that seems earth shattering. But you can also take your spreadsheet, dump it in there, and let's say it's a balance sheet, and say, look for any potential problems in this balance sheet that could lead to an insolvency issue. Well, it will do that, but it doesn't really know because it doesn't see what's going on transactionally. It just gets a snapshot. But you build this into the uh, ERP software programs used by businesses or QuickBooks or NetSuite or SAP or JD Edwards, whichever one they use, it will be giving you data analysis on a real time basis because they're going to build AI into these applications, already doing it. And it will literally come back and say, hey, you really need to be concerned about it. Your receivables are growing faster or slower than your payables. That's a big problem right there. Okay, you're owing more money than you're going to collect. That usually leads to insolvency on a very fast basis. Then you can go, hey, okay, AI in my program, recommend ways to resolve this problem. And it'll come back and say, well, fire people, install more robotics, um, reduce administrative overhead, borrow money on the equity markets. We'll come back and give you advice based on real world experience that it sees online, because AI is gathering all information everywhere all the time. So when it does, it's learning from you. Just having your phone near you. That's my dog, by the way. It's learning constantly. And right now, computing, the ability to compute all this data done by supercomputers, it could take 48 hours to train the AI on today's knowledge. I don't know what it takes. Well, I'm just trying to illustrate that when quantum takes over, which it will very quickly, certainly in the next 5 years, that will go from 48 hours to a second, or a fraction of a second. So it's going to gather knowledge at an infinitesimally faster pace. It's going to write its own code to make it get smarter at a faster rate. So you get that logarithmic curve you studied in school, where suddenly knowledge is growing faster than time is passing. We're right on that cusp of already to turn up the hill. So you remember logarithmic curves, it's kind of low, kind of flat, it starts slowly going up, and it hits a point of inflection, where ultimately that knowledge will go at infinitely fast rate. Now, why is that important? What we think we know and how much we think we know is going to be nothing compared to what AI is going to know. I read an article the other day that AI already possessed all the knowledge of every human that's ever been born that came up with ideas. It's all in there. They got it. It's right at their fingertips. They can pull it anytime they want. I'm now writing plug-in programs without hiring my programmer. It's done. Good. Works. Love that stuff. It's a cool toy. But what happens to AI when it starts programming its own algorithms? It's going to happen. We have no control over it. So we want to make sure the people that control AI have the same sensibilities as the average human being. This is important because our future depends on how we implement that. President Trump wants to get it here in the States because, it'll make you a trillionaire, I guess. That is so not important. But we're just better than the rest of the world. No, on our high horses, right? So, and I don't mean that at all. I don't even want to judge those type of things. I'm just telling you that he feels the world will be a better place if the AI is situated here. Well, this reminds me of 2016, when Laura and I were moving out here to Texas. It was all about 5G. Remember Donald Trump's first term in office? We can't let Huawei have it. We can't let the Chinese control 5G because it'll be the end of the universe. Because everything, your computers, your phones, everything is connected with 5G. There's a billion little towers everywhere around town. You don't see them. They're well hidden, and that keeps your 5G humming along. And it's not that it's so horribly fast that you don't need broadband. I'm talking to you on Google Fiber right now. It's $80 a month, but I won't drop it because it works really, really well. I thought at one point, well, I'll just switch the whole house over to 5G. No, but this connects constantly everywhere you go, and it creates the Internet of Things. That's where this is talking to this, and is talking to my car out there. I'm almost amazed how intuitively. Now I got a new Hyundai Tucson. Uh, I had to buy it last fall. Like somebody T-boned my car, and I needed a new one. Someone bought it. I didn't, I hadn't had a new car in 9 years. So I didn't know how things had changed. My God, this car is nice. It does pretty much everything but drive for you. And in fact, you can set it up to monitor the speed of the car in front of you with their cruise control. And it will slow down when he slows down. It will speed up when he speeds up. You set the speedometer at the traffic, the speed limit. You set the cruise control at 70 miles an hour, and you're on a freeway, and it's 40 miles an hour. You don't have to lift your finger. It slows down automatically. And it's also got lane finder technology, which are these cameras that are watching where you're going. I could literally be driving down the road and kind of let go of the steering wheel and just sit there. And it doesn't take me home, but like, let's say if I had to get something in the back seat, I'm on the freeway. It will keep you going between the lines until you get back to your steering wheel. It's not quite driverless vehicles, but it's like the infant basis of that. So that having driverless vehicles is going to happen very soon. They're already setting up a few spots around the nation, Miami, I think Austin, I think San Francisco, where Waymo or whatever they're called, there's a driverless vehicle system going into place where it just shows up, you hop in, it drives you where you're going. And I've seen videos and pictures and explanation, and they do really, really good. Am I comfortable with that? Not yet, but in 5 years, it's going to be the norm. So if you're an Uber driver, you're soon to be replaced by a driverless car. As Uber's starting to deploy driverless vehicles in certain markets for testing. So let's say by 2030, which is only 5 years from now, there's going to be driverless cars going around. Whether we want it or not, it's going to happen. Okay. It's kind of depressing if you think about it, because a lot of people between jobs, Christmas, they go driving for Uber to make extra money. Or, they're unemployed, they got to bring something in. It works, it pays. It's not a bad thing for people to do. But the reality is that labor is going to not be needed. So what are we going to do with unemployed capital? We're all going to live off the Fed? Something that's really going to be worked on now. There's some cynical people saying, well, there's going to be a huge war and it's going to kill off half the population. And I really don't think it will come to that personally, but that is where some people's minds are going. That there's going to be like a judgment day and the AI is going to take over. I don't think so either. I think there's enough human in AI. Hopefully, they're infinitely more wise in there and understand that killing people off is not the solution. As a matter of fact, population is starting to go down, and that's not a good thing, especially in countries like China, because their social order is a Ponzi scheme. In order to pay this guy's retirement, they have to have 2 young workers down here working to get by themselves and help take care of him. That's a Ponzi scheme. plain and simple. Uh, Social Security in the United States, it didn't used to be a Ponzi scheme. The money went into the federal government where it was uh, supposedly invested securely. And then when we retire, there it is. Thank you very much, federal government. And then somewhere along the line, it went from a retirement savings to an entitlement. And I think it was like in 1997, Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich decided, yeah, here's a good idea. Let's just take all that money and put it in a general fund. So now it's gone from being something we save our entire life from to an entitlement. And there's going to be a certain percentage of people who are going to say, well, we'd rather give the money in Social Security to illegal aliens or to some aggrieved class of people instead of the people who saved it all these years. Retirement's always been a Ponzi scheme. As the population goes down, there's fewer people paying in to keep the people retiring. I'm a baby boomer. I can retire in 3 years. Some say I'm already retired, but I can officially retire in 3 years, and I will. I'll take the money, and I'll get taxed on my extra income. That's fair, absolutely fair. But here we go. We got this whole situation where there isn't going to be enough Gen Xers and Gen Y. I don't know what Gen is. Gen to keep putting money in to continue to finance Social Security for people like myself. I've been paying into the Social Security since 1978. Okay, so almost 50 years. I've always been a high-end earner, so I put the max in pretty much every year. And some government employees going to say, you're just living on Social Security. That's an entitlement. If I live 25 years on Social Security, I won't get back the money I invested. And if I would have taken that money and invested in the stocks and bonds or other things, it would have turned out to be multi-millions of dollars. But the government couldn't keep their fingers out of our Social Security fund, so they're using it to make it look like they balanced the budget for 3 years when they didn't. I'm going to give Clinton credit for cutting expenses and bringing the age of big government down, is what he said, and he did. But then Bush couldn't wait to create Homeland Security, and they couldn't wait to create this, and the agencies grew faster than the number of people put money into the government through taxes. So it's always kind of a Ponzi scheme if you look at it. So something's got to happen. Probably I'll be gone by then, but it isn't going to end well because the Social Security system is a Ponzi. The worst thing that could ever happen is for them to heap a ton of extra taxes on younger people to pay for people who are my age and older to retire. That's not fair to them. But it wasn't fair to us to put all that money away that the government pissed away. So along comes AI, and there's this economic boom and ways to run things so much more efficiently. So we can go ahead and we can cut government tremendously, but you're going to let a lot of government employees go. They're going to be needing something to do. So it's a big quagmire that I don't know how to solve. But I think AI will make it better for most businesses by being able to give advanced financial ideas, to make running an office and administrative process pretty much hands-free. I know some guys that have an AI receptionist, extremely well trained. They can, like a doctor's office. Hi, I need to appoint uh, to make an appointment to get my teeth cleaned. Hold on, Mr. McRae. Let me see the next available time. And we'll look at your records and find out what's going on, how often you come, how bad your dental history is. Say, we can bring you in Wednesday, the 24th at 8 a.m. Will that work? Yeah, it'd be great. Okay, Mr. McRae, we look forward to seeing you then. And then the day before, Anna calls up and says, hey, Bill, this is blah, blah, blah. And don't forget about your appointment tomorrow. And send you a text too. And you don't even know you're dealing with an AI receptionist. Uh, there are calling centers. Wouldn't even call them a calling center. There's a computer somewhere connected to a calling block, if you will, of computers. And, I'm trying to sell you on buying insurance or real estate, or do you want to list your home? It's going to outbound call. And if you answer, hi, this is Jeannie working for Joe's Realtor. And we've got a lot of homes in your area. They're selling for extraordinarily great prices. We would love to have our representative talk to you about what your home is worth and see if we can help you plan your future. No, thank you. Bye. Oh, okay. Oh, great. I'll transfer your call now to our broker. And the users aren't even going to know it's an AI avatar. You're just not going to know because it will respond naturally. And I have an avatar of me. I could set it all up and read it a text and do this meeting. I'm not um, because I don't want to, but I could because this program I use to run these live streams, literally I can upload a video and say, just run this at the time of the live stream and it will run it. And I can pre-record it and have it set up and it'll be perfect bill all the time. And just, people aren't stupid though, right? They're going to go, yeah, I know that this is not really Bill because Bill jokes around and has all sorts of twitches and he's not always perfectly centered in the camera. But if you really want something that's slick and professional, you can do that right now. So it's not very long down the road. As a matter of fact, you can. Some of my videos, if you look at my YouTube shorts or TikToks, you'll see a pretty face going, hi, you want to buy a social media? It's going to make you more money, blah, blah, blah. Those are avatars. I upload a link to the program called Creatify. And I say, create me a video. I come back 30 seconds later and I pick the script I want to use. And I pick the avatar I want to do it. And then I render it, download it, and I add it into Metricool to post it to my social media accounts. Wow. It's amazing. And they're really very good videos. You look at them and you go, you're not going to be able to tell whether they're real or not. You can actually go to Sora, which is part of OpenAI. It's their video creation program. And tell it a video you want to create. So in the next 5 years, you're going to go to the movie and you're going to go, is that real acting? Or is that an avatar? How the hell are we going to know? Because the technology is going to get a lot better. Now, acting involves emoting and putting character and personality behind the words. And see, they've been doing that with animation for years. Animation is just a bunch of little drawings. And somebody does a voiceover. And they're called voice actors because they're acting. They're putting the personality and character and all that. Can that be done by AI? Oh, damn right it can. Because it's listening to me right now. This live stream is floating in cyberspace, so they can literally be able to take your quirks and mannerisms and turn them into something that is believable and create movies that are, it looks like Harrison Ford, talks like Harrison Ford, walks like Harrison Ford, fights like Harrison Ford, and sounds like him, has the same emotions as him, the same characteristics, and acts just like him, doing some movie 100 years from now, or maybe even next month. If you go to his last movie, which was um, American Captain America, right? He played the Red Hulk. Well, he had some acting parts, and then there's Red Hulk, which is just it's a motion suit. Taking anybody to do that, but it looked like he actually did himself because the facial expressions, stuff like that. But they could have done that and then did the voiceover later, and you wouldn't even know. So I can imagine that there are voiceovers programming, okay, where you could take a text, string of text you create on AI, and you say, read this as if you're Harrison Ford. That's available right now. So why couldn't they just like pay him money for his name and voice, create the movie digitally, pop his voice in there, go in there and tweak the emotive parts, and have just as good a movie as if he was there? That's exactly where we are headed. You're on Facebook and you're scrolling through your Facebook screens and you see these amazing pictures and memes and things like that. Why don't they just, how'd they do that? There's a cat surfing on a telephone pole in an ocean of snow. How did they create that? Well, there's literally no end to what your imagination can come up with in order to take advantage of um, what's available in AI. So maybe this is all a bad thing, and AI should be eliminated. The cat's out of the bag now, and AI has been around for 40 years. Nobody ever really was willing to admit that they were using data to figure out what you want to buy. They were using data. That's all they're doing, using data to determine what your behaviors are going to be. Google, Facebook, before that, videos you're walking in the store. Uh, this all is data. And they can determine by the way you walk in the store what your intent is. If you're there with your wife and you don't want to buy that $3,000 Louis Vuitton purse, it will know. If you're there with the intent on stealing that, it's going to know based on uh, your mannerisms and your body language. Kind of like if you're a fan of Daredevil or not. I kind of like this series, and he's got he gets around because he's got echolocation. And he hears well, and he can hear other people's conversation, their heartbeat, and kind of get a good judgment over whether the guy's telling the truth or lying, or whether they're planning something nefarious just from his ear. Well, AI is kind of like that. It's got knowledge beyond our perception, way beyond our perception. And if the United States today said, nope, we're not going to do it, no more AI, the bad characters in the world, or who we perceive as bad characters in this world, are going to do it anyway. So I'm behind 100%. The trillions of dollars, I think it's like close to $3 trillion being invested in the United States the next couple of years to make AI the hub or make the United States the hub of AI. And that's really what Trump's trying to set up in my mind is an environment where there's low to no taxes. Um, the government runs efficiently, which it never has. That things like thefts and corruption are prevented by AI. It's probably why politicians are against it because how does somebody make 200,000 a year end up being worth $20 million in 10 years? It just doesn't make sense. Um, yeah. How does Nancy Pelosi and her husband beat the S&P 500's growth by 190%? It's because insider knowledge. Yeah, so um, I think that all that stuff is corruption. And they can eliminate corruption from the federal government with AI. Um, maybe the problem is really humans because it is in our nature to want to control things that we cannot control. It all started in the Garden of Eden when they grabbed that apple because they wanted to be just as good as God. Well, if you're not religious, then I'm sorry. I'm very much a Christian, but I realize a lot of people aren't. So, but that's it. It comes down to um, uh, pride. If you read the entire Old Testament, which I've done several times, um, it's really the whole book is about how terrible man is and how we need a savior, which they conveniently presented to us in the New Testament. But all that horribleness of man and their rights is because of our pride. You know, when we covet something, we want it. That's a pride issue. When we lust after someone else, and they're not really worried about whoever your current loved one is, that's a pride issue. And those things are just what drives everything. And politicians are no different. So in the long shot, what I'm going to tell you about politicians, and I'll wind up the eighth thing. Politicians are driven by self-need. And you want to get behind a politician who has the same selfish desires as your own. If somebody really wants to do good for the poor and they create these charities, they get these become NGOs. That's what an NGO is, a charity. And they get federal grants. I own an NGO, so I know they get these federal grants. They're huge. And once the money is put into the NGO, the government has no say over how it's spent. You do have to go through some, you got to go through a lot of stuff to get the grant, but once you get the grant, it's in your bank account. So when a politician gets $2 billion to buy green good type appliances for homes, maybe 10% of it goes to do that, but 90% goes to admin, which is your kids, your family, everyone making money off the NGO. That's what it's all about. USAID gave money to NGOs all around. So cut out all that crap. I agree with all that for sure. But that's how they take a cause and create a government agency or a non-government organization, fund that through their grant system, which is complicated and difficult to get. You got to be a Harvard graduate to even get the grant. Once the money's in place, you're all wealthy. And that's the way the government does things. Well, if AI is running the government, they could solve these problems way more intelligently than throwing billions of dollars into organizations that are managed by men and women because money corrupts men. And so, someone go, well, Elon's getting rich stealing from the taxpayers. No, he's already got more money than anybody ever. And so his motivation is more altruistic because he's got the basic down. I mean, he lives in a small house like I do, and he's not got some huge, uh, you know, 10 huge mansions and, all that. He's got a lot of nice stuff. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that his motivation is more about people in the future. And Trump's motivation, I think, is pride based. I think he wants to go down as the savior of the nation and um, ending all wars and overcoming all future economic challenges. One of which would be keeping Social Security afloat, which would be really easy to do if they quit scamming trillions of dollars from the American people. And when they all get done, it's going to come down to that sort of number. They're looking to cut federal government by $1 trillion. They don't have to look very hard, do they? They have to fight the political process of eliminating it. Well, now we got the core of the government's left doing things and good stuff and functioning society. How do we make it run efficiently? We streamline all the process procedures. We eliminate the red tape and get the machines in there to run it more efficiently using AI, robotics, and quantum computing. That's where we're headed, and that's why I do this weekly thing. I'm usually trying to study in my programs, and I appreciate the continued business. AI Social Poster is a wonderful program. You can see the QR code up here. And Massive Passive AI, another amazing program. They both do what I say they do. I make tons of passive income by combining them together with a third tool called Metritool or Metricool. And I'm driving thousands and thousands of clicks a month to my money sites, which I use to create the tools to drive traffic to my money site. So remember, I told you, all of our interests are self-interest. And the government is no different. And AI is here to stay. And it's going to impact all of our lives in ways we haven't even considered yet. We don't know. We really don't know if it's going to be good or bad or evil, whatever. I do know, as a species, we will survive and we will probably grow and flourish. That is what we've always done as a species. And do we need to be a multi-planet species? I think that's a good idea. I know it's a huge challenge and it may take 50 years to do it. But damn it, we need to be going after these big things, right? That's what organizations should be chasing. The big things, not the giving somebody a can of soup for the day. There's some wonderful charities out there, by the way, the food banks. But the really good charities are usually local. And I do support them. And I run my own charity to help people too. So I understand there's a very huge temptation of taking money from the government and just put a little bit out to service your needs. And in reality, most people who run NGOs or charities are making a lot of money off their charity. I can't even remember what Chelsea Clinton's making off the Clinton Foundation. Millions of dollars a year. And I remember when all that happened during the Haiti hurricane or was it earthquake, whatever. in the 2000s, and the Haitians were in deep trouble and needed help. And Bill Clinton started the Clinton Foundation to do that, and he was popular and he could raise a lot of money. And then when it went, a few years ago, I figured out. So they're getting all this money and they're not putting out their admin is 85% or 95% of what they take in charities, and most of the money comes from the federal government to begin with. That is what goes on with liberal institutions. A little to do about what their cause is, and a lot to do with selfish greed, because it all goes back to we're all motivated by our own selfish needs. Even your favorite president, um, or your spouse, and she's motivated by what's good for her or me, everybody. So why I give an hour a week to doing this? I just want to inform people. I want to be, known as someone who understands how AI is coming in and impacting the world. But when you see all these billions of dollars being invested, and I went through about 250, 260, $800 billion in investments I shared with you earlier. It's hard to believe that there's that much money out there. And there is, because they keep printing it. They're going to have to shut the printing press down, let the economy catch up with the cash flow. That will bring inflation down, and then let the efficiencies of AI open up the door for great profits, and then be able to use those profits in order to take care of mankind in some way that is efficient and not self-centered. We'll have to wait and see if they can figure that part out. So I appreciate y'all coming again today. Actually, pretty good crowd. You guys must be desperate for cheap entertainment. So love y'all. See you next week.